I got no shoes on my feet, makes me feel complete. I got no head on my soul, so I can lose control. But now I'm here, singing the shoeless blues. What's up, everyone? Hey, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about feet. Someone reached out recently to see if they could interview me about a college thesis that they're doing, and it involved being barefoot. And I was just kind of thinking about how I haven't shared much about being barefoot in a while. So I will do it right now. Living barefoot. So yes, these are, let's just give you a reminder, these are my feet. These are my caveman feet, Cro-Magnon. I have been barefoot for quite some time, for those that don't know. And what I'm noticing is, I was making TikTok videos a couple years ago. I was doing a lot of like trendy barefoot stuff. Not necessarily trying to, but it was becoming more trendy. I guess a lot of videos were going viral and being successful. And I don't love the short form stuff, I gotta say. I mean, I do see myself like getting stuck into the scrolling here and there, but like personally creating it, I'm just not a big fan. And I prefer to do longer videos where I can actually get more in depth with stuff. Because it's like the short form content is often people just trying to grab your attention. That's what it's like. The heart of it is like, let me just grab your attention, watch it, share it. And it's hard to really give a lot of substance. So what I was noticing is I was like trying to kind of get into that world and quickly share all these barefoot tips. And yeah, maybe I can inspire people. And I'm not saying that short form doesn't have a place. But personally for me, there's a slowness that happens. And it can only really happen in these longer videos. So if you're choosing to watch and like really engage, cool. And if not, if you want to just do the flippity dippity scroll thing, hey, I get it. I totally get it. But I've been doing a lot of consulting and stuff over the years, helping other creators just be more authentic in their sharing and also not lose their minds. And one thing I'm seeing is there's this weird shift now where people trying to decide whether to do short form or long form. And since I've stepped away from making shorter videos, not like anybody cares, but I've just found myself occasionally putting up these YouTube videos where it feels good. So that's nice. I like to do things that feel good and when I feel inspired. So let's talk about feet, why don't we? Being barefoot has a lot of complications. There's no denying that. Stores might kick you out. People might look at you weird. You might step on things. You might hurt yourself. I had my pinky toe is sore because a piece of wood fell on it. I've got a cut right there. Somehow, this is I will say, right there in the arch, that's like the most vulnerable spot because it doesn't have the same calluses. I do notice that sometimes. But I've been doing a lot of more construction and building and stuff, and I'm barefoot, and it actually benefits me in certain ways. People often say, well, that's crazy. You're going to hurt yourself, step on a nail. And yes, there are risks for sure, and you got to be careful. But having my feet when I'm doing this stuff is great. If I need to like hold a piece of wood together and my hands are being used, I can literally use my feet to like grab and pull the wood. Or if I need to like pick up a nail, or something like that, or take something when I'm in a weird position. So it's kind of like having four hands almost, which is pretty sweet. But being barefoot is not for everybody. And I think something I was talking about in this interview earlier is just, it's easy when we hear about something that makes sense to want to just dive into it fully. And what comes along with that oftentimes is the guilt. So for example, let's say you realize that, eating clean, whatever, growing your own food is important. Well, to actually do that process, it takes a really long time to learn how to grow your own food. And if that's a journey you want to take, great. But if you just expect to all of a sudden know how to grow your own food, and because you're failing at trying and you're beating yourself up and like guilting yourself for, I need to be growing my own food and I should be this and I feel gross going to the grocery store, whatever like stories and ideas you have, you're just going to prolong the process. But when you look back in 10 years from now, because you had an idea and something you went after and you see how much you've changed and grown, well, that's great, right? Because growth happens slowly. So if we have an idea of something in our desires pulling us forward, like for me, the foot thing, I knew, shoes don't make sense, and I was starting to learn about them and wanting to be more barefoot. But it's taken me many, many, many years to get to this place where I can hike up the mountain barefoot, where I can be almost anywhere barefoot and spend 99% of my time barefoot. And I can look back and be like, wow, look how far I've come. But, just because I knew it made more sense, that's the thing that took me on the journey to explore it. It doesn't mean that automatically I'm going to be this like barefoot expert and have these like feet that are just super rugged. No, it's a very slow process. So if you can nurture yourself on that process, well, it will make more sense. And that's why I bring this up, because the process of growth, we're going to go through all kinds of things. When we have the destruction of who we think we are, which I say, this false self character, this ego character, whatever you want to call it, and we've been being guided by all these things and all these fears and ideas that we are so sure to be true, even if we haven't really like considered whether they actually are, we just kind of blindly believe them. Well, when you wake up to the truth, like when you realize, oh, in my case, wow, shoes are damaging my feet, this is crazy. Well, it doesn't mean I just need to throw my shoes out right away and be extreme about it. Maybe I was a little bit extreme for myself, but what I've learned in anything is like, rather than being extreme, appreciate the process. Appreciate the process of going from being this person who is unconscious to becoming conscious. And it's never just one thing. The shoe could be one piece of it, but when you take off the shoe, you realize like, wow, what else is what I've been lied to? What else doesn't make sense? And you start exploring all these things. But you can't take them all in at once, or you'll get overwhelmed. And when people get overwhelmed by too many things, it's like when people wake up and they're like, oh God, the world's messed up, it's crazy, everybody's doing all this stuff, and the corporate greed, and it's like, you can feel so small in that space. And what happens often is people get overwhelmed, they do nothing. It's like the sort of overwhelm and the paralysis that comes from just like experiencing too much. So what I say is take things slow, baby steps, one step at a time. So if you're someone that wants to go barefoot, great. I've got tons of videos. I also have a free book. If you click the link below, you can learn about all the things that I'm sharing. I have a free book that I give away. I have a course on being barefoot. I'm trying to give away as much content because when I see people interested in something, I don't want to say, hey, I'm the authority, listen to me, but I want to say, here's my experience, and if this inspires you, great, but never just blindly believe what I'm saying either. I couldn't sit here and talk about people blindly believing, others and going through that process of the destroying of the false without recognizing that I too am the false teacher. I'm the false guru, per se. I am not the foot expert. I don't know anything about feet. I just have my experiences, and I spend a lot of time learning as much as I can about what it means to be barefoot and the ins and outs and the pros and the cons and da-da-da-da. But this is me specifically, my body, my choice, my body, my environment, my reality, my brain. Yours is going to be different. So like you can use me as kind of a sounding board or like a mirror into a possibility, but then you need to explore that yourself. There's a big thing going on with influencers right now where people are just like, oh, you hear something online, someone's like, well, they said that, and you'll see somebody like on a podcast or like, did you know that 9 out of 10 people are da-da-da-da, or like, it's been shown that da-da-da, like, we're just throwing out these facts and people hear them and like, wow, then they go tell their friends, did you know 9 out of 10 people, or it's been shown that 4 out of 5, whatever, and it's like, we're just blindly listening to people. And so what I'm trying to say is like, don't blindly listen to me. I know nothing. There's nothing for me to know. I love my life. I spent freaking so many years getting to make sense. Wow, I'm 38 years old. Can you believe that, folks? It's been a long time. I just turned 38, and I spent so much time in my life trying to make sense of this world. But I'm constantly being reminded that I know nothing. I'm constantly being humbled in that experience of like, oh wait, I just exist. And sometimes I can get all like high and mighty about the feet thing, and I see how I did that in the past and how it pushed me into maybe some stupid places. But I'm continually reminded that none of that matters. Life is a journey, and we're passing time, right? We need things to do that, right? And we can choose to pass our time in agony and misery, or we can try to do things that we enjoy. I'm not saying one is right over the other, but if something makes sense to you and you really feel it, well, I would implore you to explore it, because what's gotten me to this place in my life of clarity and understanding is never just blindly assuming that what somebody else said, no matter how esteemed or accredited they are, just makes sense. It might make sense if I actually go through that process myself and like really look into it, but I'm not just going to assume because they have a plaque on the wall or because they're on the news that what they're saying is the truth. And I'm just to kind of wrap this up with the barefoot thing is my whole life there was people that had the authority on what it meant to wear shoes, and I was told these things and I made these assumptions. And when I went barefoot, I started to realize, wait a second, why am I making these assumptions? Who told me these things, and what was their motivation? If I don't know them, was it to make money? Was it to convince me? Was it that they were living in fear and they believed somebody before them? I don't know. I need to look into that. And that is the beautiful process of life. When you wake up and you realize that things aren't what you thought they were, well, then you go on a journey to figure out what that is. And some people are really aggressive about it and they're radical, and I've had my experiences of that, but in my old age, in my younger and more vulnerable years, in my older years of going through this experience, I'm constantly reminded that everything that I thought that I knew has to be looked at under a microscope. And what's cool is when you allow yourself that process, well, there is something underneath the essence of life that you start to tap into. Just like when you take off the shoe and you realize you have this amazing foot, the more you condition your foot to be able to experience the elements, it's just like yourself. The more you kind of take off this character that you've been playing, and alleviate the depression and the anxiety and the pain, the more you start to fall into something that's almost beyond words. And that's, I guess, what I'm sort of beckoning maybe folks out there to look into and to consider, is that there's this life that's filled with possibilities, and do you want to be ruled and run by people that, are telling you things and you don't know their motivation? Or do you want to find out what actually makes sense for you? So, again, I've got links to all my books below. I talk deeply about all this stuff. And, I wish you the best.